The sharp crack of flesh against flesh silenced the entire bank lobby. The sound was so sudden, so violent, that even the people buried in their phones or filling out forms froze mid-motion. Heads snapped toward the source of the noise. A young black woman in a modest gray coat stood rigid at the counter, her cheeks still turned from the force of the blow. Her face bore no tears, no shock, only a steady, unyielding calm. Across from her, the teller's hand was still half raised, his lips curled into a smirk of superiority that twisted into something darker. For a breathless moment, the whole room seemed to wait. Then came the whispers. Did he just... No way. Right in front of everyone? The teller chuckled bitterly, lowering his hand. That'll teach you to stop raising your voice in here. You don't just walk into my bank and start making demands. People like you should know your place. The words dripped with contempt. A few customers gasped. An elderly woman clutched her purse tighter. A young father put his arm protectively around his daughter, as though shielding her from the ugliness of the scene. But the woman at the counter did not move. Slowly, she raised her hand to her cheek, feeling the sting, acknowledging it without shame. Her eyes locked on the teller, unwavering. "You've made a mistake," she said, her voice low, steady, carrying across the lobby like the hum of electricity. The teller scoffed. "Mistake? No, I don't make mistakes. The mistake was you thinking you could walk in here, dress like that, talking like that, and get respect. You think you're important? You're nobody." Before the woman could reply, another figure swept in from the side, a woman in her 40s, sharply dressed in a tailored blazer, hair pinned into a perfect bob. Her badge gleamed, assistant manager, Karen. "What's going on here?" Karen demanded, though her tone carried no curiosity, only irritation. The teller gestured at the black woman dismissively. "She's causing trouble, demanding to see the manager. Won't give a reason. I told her to step aside, but she kept pushing." Karen's eyes flicked up and down the woman's plain clothes, her simple hairstyle, the worn shoes at her feet. Her lip curled. Some people don't understand professionalism. If you can't follow the rules of this bank, you don't belong here. The word landed heavy. Belong. A dagger sharpened by centuries of arrogance. The woman tilted her head slightly, still composed. "Professionalism?" she repeated, her voice cool. "Is that what you call slapping customers in the face?" Karen didn't flinch. Instead, she gave a thin smile that never reached her eyes. "Don't play the victim. You provoked him. You can't walk into a financial institution acting entitled and expect no consequences. If you can't behave, you'll be escorted out." The teller crossed his arms, emboldened. "Yeah, out, before we call security." The murmurs in the crowd grew louder now. People caught between outrage and fear. A man whispered to his wife, "This doesn't look right. She didn't deserve that." Another muttered, "This is crossing the line." The woman didn't react. She didn't shout, didn't cry. She let the silence stretch, commanding the space with the sheer force of her calm. Finally, she spoke. "You think I came here today to ask for help? To beg? No." Her gaze swept across the counter staff, then back to the teller and Karen. "I came here to see how this bank really treats people when they think nobody important is watching." The teller barked a laugh. "And you think you're important? Lady, please. You look like you're one step away from overdraft fees." Karen smirked. "This is ridiculous. Whatever game you're playing, it ends now." The woman smiled faintly, not with amusement, but with the quiet confidence of someone holding a secret. She placed a folder on the counter and slid it toward them. "Read this." The teller snatched it up with mocking bravado. "What's this, huh? Overdue notices? Credit denials?" He flipped the cover open and froze. His cocky grin faltered. The first page bore the embossed seal of the bank, signatures from the board of directors, and a name at the bottom written in crisp, authoritative ink. Jordan Williams. Karen leaned over, impatient. She grabbed the folder from him, flipping through the pages. Each one confirmed the same thing. Corporate ownership documents, board resolutions, and the official appointment of Jordan Williams as CEO and principal owner. Her face drained of color. This can't be right," she stammered. "This is fake. You forged these." Jordan's voice was calm, steady. "Look closer. Every signature, every seal, every notarization. Authentic. Verified." Customers craned their necks, murmurs rising like a storm. "Wait, she owns a bank." "No way. She's the CEO." Karen's hand trembled as she turned another page. The teller shifted nervously, his arrogance crumbling. Jordan stepped closer, her voice dropping so the words struck like iron. "You slapped me." Her eyes pinned the teller in place. He swallowed hard, his bravado evaporating. "And you," she turned to Karen, "endorsed it in front of witnesses, on camera, without hesitation." Karen opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Jordan let the silence linger, her presence filling the lobby like a tide no one could resist. Then she spoke, her words deliberate, unshakable. "My name is Jordan Williams, and I don't just own this bank." She let the weight of her words settle, her eyes sweeping across the stunned faces. "I own every branch, every office, every desk you sit at, every paycheck you cash. This bank is mine." Gasps erupted. Customers reached for their phones, recording feverishly. Employees froze, dread crawling across their faces. The teller stammered, "Why, you're lying." But Karen's knees nearly buckled. She knew. She had seen enough official documents in her career to know the truth when it stared her down. And she also knew the security cameras had caught everything. The slap, her words, her smirk. Jordan leaned in closer, her voice low but carrying. "You thought I was nobody. You thought you could humiliate me. And now the whole world will see how you treat people when you think no one important is watching." The teller's face went pale. Sweat beaded his forehead. Karen's lips parted, searching for excuses, but none came. The customers began clapping, slow at first, then louder. One man shouted, "Good for you." Another woman cheered, "Make them pay." Jordan didn't smile. She didn't need to. She simply turned, her eyes sweeping across the room, then back to the trembling employees. "This," she said quietly, "is only the beginning." And as the crowd erupted in whispers and weight had just unfolded, pressed down on every soul in the lobby, Jordan knew she revealed just enough to shake them. The full reckoning was still to come. The lobby of the bank was no longer the sterile, hushed place it had been minutes earlier. It pulsed with electricity, whispers, gasps, hurried phone recordings capturing every angle of the scene. The teller who had raised his hand still stood frozen, sweat dripping down his temple, his arrogance shattered. The assistant manager, Karen, looked as though the floor beneath her heels had crumbled. And Jordan Williams, the woman they had dismissed, humiliated, and struck, stood at the center of it all, still calm, still steady, her presence radiating an authority no uniform or title could manufacture. She reached forward, sliding the folder of documents back toward herself, and closed it with deliberate care. The snap of the cover echoed like a gavel, striking in a courtroom. "Security," Jordan called, her tone neither loud nor rushed, just firm enough to cut through the din. Two guards, who had been hovering uncertainly by the glass doors, suddenly straightened. They had witnessed the entire ordeal from a distance, waiting for instruction. Now, with the weight of her words, they approached quickly, confusion etched into their expressions. "Ma'am," one of them asked carefully, unsure whether to treat her as a customer or something more. Jordan gestured toward the teller and Karen. "Escort them to my office. Now." The guards hesitated for half a second, glancing at Karen, who had always thrown her weight around with staff. But then Jordan's eyes met theirs, calm, commanding, unmistakably authoritative. They didn't need further proof. Something in her gaze made it clear. This woman wasn't bluffing. "Yes, ma'am," one guard replied, snapping into action. He reached for the teller's arm. "Wait," the teller yelped, jerking backward. "You can't do this. I work here." Karen's voice came sharp, desperate. "Don't touch me. I'm the assistant manager. I'll have your jobs if you lay a hand." Jordan raised one eyebrow, and the guards froze, caught between conflicting instructions. But then she spoke again, her voice laced with iron. "You won't have anything by the time this day is over." The customers erupted again, some gasping, some clapping, some murmuring furiously into their phones as they streamed the scene live. A teenager whispered to his friend, "This is going viral already. Watch." By tonight, she's all over TikTok. Karen's face burned red, caught between humiliation and fear. This is absurd," she hissed. "You think just waving some papers around makes you CEO? This is a scam, a setup." Jordan stepped closer, her words precise, her eyes never leaving Karen's. "Do you really want to test me? Do you want me to call the regional board, put them on speaker, and have them confirm my name in front of every person here?" Karen's mouth snapped shut. The teller stuttered. But she's lying. She's just some woman." "Some woman?" Jordan cut in, her voice calm but sharp as a blade. "Some woman you thought you could slap. Some woman you thought you could humiliate. Some woman you thought didn't belong. The teller's legs wobbled under him. Take them. Jordan instructed the guard again. This time, there was no hesitation. Each guard gripped an arm, one on the teller, one on Karen. Wait, you don't understand. Karen shouted, thrashing against the grip. I've been here 15 years. I've given my life to this bank. Jordan's eyes flicked toward her briefly. Then you should have known better. The guards dragged the two employees toward the stairwell, leading to the upper offices. The entire lobby's attention followed. Phones held high, some customers applauding, others shaking their heads in disbelief. Jordan finally turned back to the crowd. Her voice softened, warm yet firm. Thank you for your patience. I apologize for what you've just witnessed. This is not how my bank operates, nor will it ever again. Her words washed over them, reassurance laced with resolve. A man near the front clapped loudly. Others joined, their applause swelling until it filled the lobby. Jordan gave him a respectful nod before turning and following the guards upstairs. The corridor to her office was quiet, her footsteps echoing against the polished floor. Behind her, Karen hissed furiously at the guard gripping her arm. You don't know what you're doing. I'll have you fired. She's lying. She has to be. But her voice faltered as they entered the top floor. There, etched into the glass door in elegant silver lettering, were the words, CEO Jordan Williams. The guards froze. Karen's face drained of color. The teller gawked, slack-jawed, as reality crashed into him like a tidal wave. Jordan stepped forward, swiped her key card, her personal access, across the scanner, and the door unlocked with a soft chime. She pushed it open, gesturing for them to step inside. This, she said simply, is my office. The guards guided Karen and the teller in, releasing them only when Jordan nodded. The two employees stood rigid, the weight of their arrogance finally collapsing into dread. Jordan circled behind her desk, placing the folder neatly onto its surface. She sat, folded her hands together, her gaze piercing them both. Do you know why I came today dressed like this? She asked. Neither answered. I wanted to see how my employees treat people when they don't know they're being watched. I wanted to know if respect here is genuine, or if it's reserved only for those who look powerful, wealthy, or important. She let the silence hang, her words sinking deep. Karen finally stammered, MMS Williams? I didn't know. Jordan's voice cut sharp. That's the point. You didn't know. And because you didn't know, your true character came out. You condone violence against a customer. You mocked someone you assumed was beneath you. And you did it with pride. Karen's eyes filled with panic. Please, I've worked here for years. I've always done my job. You failed it today, Jordan interrupted. The teller finally found his voice, desperate. I didn't mean to. She was being rude. I lost my temper. You lost more than your temper, Jordan said evenly. You lost your job. And your dignity. Both of them blanched. Jordan pressed the intercom button on her desk. Send HR up now. Within minutes, two representatives from Human Resources entered the office, folders in hand, already briefed by the guards. They looked from Jordan to the trembling employees, then back at Jordan, awaiting instruction. Jordan gestured toward Karen and the teller. Terminate their contracts, effective immediately, and ensure the footage from the lobby security cameras is preserved. I'll be reviewing it personally. Karen let out a strangled sob. Please, don't do this. I've got children. Jordan's expression softened only slightly. And what example are you setting for them? That power gives you the right to belittle others? That arrogance is a substitute for compassion. Karen fell silent, tears streaking her face. The teller dropped into a chair, burying his face in his hands. I'm sorry, he muttered weakly. I'm so sorry. But Jordan's tone didn't waver. You weren't sorry when you raised your hand. You weren't sorry when you sneered. You're sorry now because the truth has caught you, and that's not the same. The HR reps nodded solemnly, opening their folders to begin the paperwork. Downstairs, the lobby still buzzed with energy. Customers who had witnessed the scene were abuzz, some already sharing clips online. In a corner, a teenager's live stream ticked upward. Hundreds, then thousands of viewers tuning in, flooding the chat with messages. She's a queen. This is the power move of the year. Respect. Imagine slapping your CEO. By the time Jordan returned to the lobby, the crowd erupted again. Applause, cheers, words of admiration. Some customers approached her, shaking her hand, thanking her for standing up not just for herself, but for everyone who'd ever been treated like they didn't belong. Jordan addressed them with a steady smile. This bank exists to serve the community, not to shame it. No matter who you are, what you wear, or what you look like, you'll be treated with respect in my institution. That is my promise to you. The applause grew louder, echoing off the marble walls. But Jordan knew this was only the beginning. Today it wasn't just about firing two arrogant employees. It was about sending a message that would ripple far beyond this lobby. And she was ready. The sound of applause still echoed through the bank's marble lobby as Jordan stood among the crowd. Her eyes swept over the customers, some still clapping, others recording, others watching in stunned silence. Every single one of them had just witnessed the truth, that arrogance had been defeated and respect had prevailed. But Jordan knew the work wasn't finished. She raised a hand, and the noise slowly died down until the only sounds of faint hum of the overhead lights. Her presence alone commanded attention. I want each of you to remember what happened here today, she said. Not because I'm the CEO, but because it should never take someone's title to earn basic dignity. Everyone deserves respect, whether they own the bank, or they're just walking in to cash a check. Her words rolled through the room like steady waves, hitting deeper than any lecture could. Some nodded, others lowered their eyes, thinking of times when they themselves had been dismissed or humiliated. A man in a construction uniform raised his voice. Thank you, Ms. Williams. People like me get treated like garbage in places like this all the time. What you did today, it matters. Jordan gave him a respectful nod. It matters to me, too. This institution was built to serve all people, not just the ones who look wealthy. The crowd erupted again, cheers, claps, even a few whistles. For the first time in years, many felt that a bank, a place usually filled with intimidation and cold rules, had shown humanity. Upstairs, the HR team finished processing the terminations. Karen and the teller were escorted out of the building, not through the private staff exit, but through the very lobby they had disgraced. Customers recorded every second. Karen kept her eyes down, face streaked with tears. The teller shuffled beside her, pale and trembling, the weight of humiliation pressing on him harder than the sting he had inflicted. As the doors closed behind them, Jordan returned to her office. She sat at her desk, the silence wrapping around her like a cloak. For a moment, she closed her eyes, letting the adrenaline ebb away, but her mind sharpened quickly again. This wasn't just about punishing two employees. This was about building a culture. She picked up the phone and dialed the head of corporate communications. Prepare a statement, she ordered. By the end of the day, I want a press release confirming that two employees were terminated for misconduct. Be clear, this company has zero tolerance for disrespect or violence against customers. Ever. Yes, Ms. Williams, came the crisp reply. She hung up and dialed another number. This time, the head of training and development. Effective immediately. Every employee at every branch is to undergo retraining, she said. Customer respect, cultural sensitivity, conflict management. And I don't want a single branch exempt. Understand? Understood, ma'am. Jordan leaned back in her chair, staring at the city skyline through the glass wall. Her reflection looked back at her, strong, steady, unbroken. For years, she had fought her way up in an industry that tried at every turn to push her out. She had been underestimated, mocked, dismissed. But now, she sat at the top, not for vengeance, but for change. And today, change had begun. By evening, the incident had gone viral. Videos of the slap, the confrontation, and Jordan's revelation as CEO flooded every platform. Hashtags trended worldwide. Hashtag respecting the bank. Hashtag she owns the bank. Hashtag Jordan Williams. Comments poured in. She's my hero. This is how you lead, with grace and fire. Imagine slapping yourself, loudly crying face, loudly crying face, loudly crying face. She turned humiliation into empowerment. News outlets picked up the story. Anchors praised her composure. Editorials called it a defining moment in corporate accountability. And quietly, messages began to flow into her inbox. Customers thanking her, employees from other banks confessing their own struggles, and young women inspired by her strength. Jordan read them all, and for the first time in a long time, she allowed herself a small smile. The following week, Jordan held a company-wide meeting broadcast to every branch. She stood at a podium. Her voice carried through screens across the country. What happened in this building was unacceptable, she said firmly. But it revealed the truth. That respect cannot be superficial. It must be woven into the fabric of who we are. And from this day forward, that will be the standard at every level of this bank. Employees watched from break rooms, offices, and lobbies. Some nodded, some looked uneasy, but all of them knew the message was not a suggestion. It was law. Jordan ended her speech with the same words she had spoken in the lobby. It should never take a title to deserve dignity. Every human being who walks into our doors will be treated with respect. And if you can't uphold that, you don't belong here. The silence that followed was heavy, unshakable. Then came applause, even from employees watching remotely. For once, the entire company felt the pulse of true leadership. Weeks later, Jordan returned quietly to the same branch, this time without disguise, without secrecy. Customers greeted her warmly. Staff stood straighter, their tones respectful not because of fear, but because the culture was changing. One elderly woman approached her at the counter. "Thank you, Ms. Williams. You remind me of why we keep faith in good people." Jordan squeezed her hand gently. "Thank you for trusting us. We won't let you down." And in that moment, Jordan knew the slap that had once been meant to humiliate her had instead become the spark for transformation. It wasn't just about power. It was about purpose. And she had found hers. The story of Jordan Williams would be told and retold. In newsrooms, in classrooms, in households where people needed hope. A woman who had been underestimated, dismissed, and struck in public, but who revealed herself as the very power they feared. The slap had been the beginning. The fire afterward, that was her legacy. And as she looked out over her company, her community, and her future, Jordan whispered to herself with steady resolve, "They thought I was nobody, but I will show them what it means to be somebody who never forgets where she came from." And that's the story. A black woman slapped and humiliated in front of a crowd, only to reveal that she owned the very bank that tried to strip her dignity. And in the end, she fired the people who thought they had power over her. What do you think? If you were in her shoes, would you have revealed your identity right there in the lobby, or handled it another way? Tell us your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one. And don't forget, subscribe to Residential Stories for more powerful, unforgettable tales just like this one.